Is Jerome Powell 100% behind the ball? Is he lying to us? I 100% have the data and the proof in this letter that was written by Habib to the President of the United States asking Trump to go and talk to the feds, how they look at data and how they have it wrong and how they are behind the eight ball, and that we are basically should be cutting rates, how PCE and inflation reports actually, if they looked at the real live data today, would be much lower. And this is all coming, and this is all hitting Americans with higher interest rates, higher credit, the whole thing. Rates should be lower. We have the proof, and we're gonna jump into it on this video because this is getting out of control. It's getting ridiculous, and it's time to hold the Federal Reserve accountable. And all we're asking them to do is, hey, look at the data. Why are you looking at data that was a year ago or 6 months ago? Why are you not bringing it today? But in this video, we're gonna go through it all. We're gonna cover it. And my friends, by the end of this video, you will realize you'll be on the same page as me, that interest rates should be cut, that the 10-year treasury should be down, long-term interest rates should be much lower. And guess what? If the feds don't move fast and somebody doesn't act fast and catch this problem they're having in the data and how they're reading it, they're gonna have to play a lot of catch up. And that means they're gonna dramatically cut rates, rates will fall, and that's what we do not want in the housing market. We'd rather have them come down gradually. My name is Kenny Simpson. If we've never met, I focus on 1 to 4 unit financing. I've been doing it, oh my gosh, 20 years now, helped over 5,000 customers, funded billions of dollars of loans. And I shoot videos like this to help you out to basically figure out what is going on in the economy, what's going on with the rates, what's going on in housing, and just break all that nonsense and noise out there that you are reading every day. And why am I talking about rates? Because that is the #1 topic that everybody asks me about. Kenny, what's going on with rates? When are they going to come down? What is taking so long? I don't understand. I thought they're going to be down. Nothing makes sense. I thought they cut rates 100 basis points and then they went up. Everybody is completely confused. And guess what? As I read this letter that was written to Trump by Habib, and let me read you quickly who Habib is, a little bit about him so you understand how this individual is in our industry, in the mortgage space. All he does is watch rates. He is the market predictor of rates. He watches data, rates, trends, and he is one of the most data-driven experts in our industry that has been giving us rates for a long, long time now. So let me read it here. So Habib is an American entrepreneur and frequent media source for his mortgage and housing expertise. He's the CEO of MBS Highway, the industry's most highly regarded and recognized tool for transforming salespeople, advisors into better salespeople. He used to be a loan originator, but Barry basically is the guru that tells us, you know, should you lock rates, float rates, all that. He has a pile of experts that work for him, advisors that know what's going on, economists. So he's getting all the news, all the data, and trying to tell us to float the rate, to lock the rate, and what's going on. And so he's very in tune to data and the market and how everything affects rates. So it is his job to know this stuff, and people in our industry actually pay him to know this stuff. So he is writing this letter basically to Trump saying, hey, look, we're looking at the data, the real live data, and it's not what the feds are looking at. And if they were actually looking at this data, rates would already be cut. The long-term interest rates would probably be at least a point lower. So you're watching this video, the rate you just got quoted would be a point lower. It should be a point lower. So his argument in this letter that he sent to Trump is saying that the Federal Reserve is misleading the American people. So that means you're misleading when you get out there and talk. When Powell talks, he influences market. He influences the bond market, the treasury market, the stock market, us, everything, the long-term rates, the short-term rates, everything. He is a very powerful voice. That's why when you hear me joke around, I say big mouth Powell, because when he speaks, he moves markets globally here. So it's a big deal. So if he's actually looking at one of the biggest components we're going to talk about is shelter in place, and looking at old data, and the data has changed, we basically are not getting the real deal. We are not getting where inflation really sits today. And so if you are, let's say you're a homeowner, let's say you're a renter, let's say you own investment properties, maybe you're a renter, maybe you have realized like, wow, the rent I paid a year ago or 6 months ago, it's lower in the building I am, or I just recently went and moved somewhere else. I'm like, I got a great deal. Well, that's why right now there's so much supply coming to the market, the rental market nationally, that it's an oversupply. There's not enough demand. So what happens when you have more supply and less demand? If you said, hey, prices are lower on rents, you got it. So you're seeing, big owners of apartment buildings or houses, whatever, and they can't rent them out. They're having to give you incentives, maybe 1 month free, 2 months free to move in, right? Things like that, maybe a lower deposit. So you're starting to see people give deals with rentals because the demand's not there. Eventually that demand will pick up and catch up because they're not going to keep building, and the inventory is not going to hit the market as much as it is over the next years. So this will catch up. So for right now, shelter in place, for example, is 40% of PCE number. So here's the key points of the letter, and then we're going to get into the data. So I'm going to read. Inflation metrics, core PCE at 2.8, core CPI is 3.2 are keeping rates high. Shelter costs, housing and rents are overestimated and outdated. Real-time rental data suggests inflation is lower than reported. The Fed's flawed methodology has caused housing affordability issues. So let's fact check some of this, right? Because hey, you guys hear all this nonsense and BS out there. Well, why don't we fact check it and let's jump into the data. So core PCE and core CPI do include outdated shelter data. Shelter is 18% of core PCE and 46% of core CPI, heavily influencing inflation. Government uses 6 months rolling data, folks. 6 months ago. Think about 6 months ago. It's like there was a different president, a different administration, different Congress, Senate being like majority, right? It's a whole new world almost. So what real-time data shows? So private data from CoreLogic, Zillow, and Apartment List shows rents are only up 1.5% year over year, much lower than the 4.8 reported by the Feds. That's a huge number. If the Feds adjusted for real-time shelter costs, core PCE, are you ready? Which their core PCE is what they look at. That is the inflation report that they look at, and they determine if they're going to cut rates, raise rates, or what they're going to talk about, like verbally blah, blah, blah out there, right? So core PCE is, remember we just said, is sitting at 2.8. If you took the shelter in place, the real data right now today, it would be at 2.2. Do you understand? If it was at 2.2, he would be cutting rates, the 10-year treasury lower, and your mortgage rate, if you're watching this video, would probably be a point lower. Think about that on the cost. If you're talking about a $500 or $1 million loan amount, what are we talking about? $500, $1,000 a month? That's huge savings, and that's a huge penalty for having the wrong data. So higher interest rates and housing affordability is the crisis that this letter is talking about. In the mortgage industry, that is the problem. Is people do not want to move because they do not want to have a 7% rate. They cannot afford that house, right? With insurance going up, and then just rates going up and the cost of housing's high, they're just getting the triple whammy, the trifecta whammy, and it's not helping at all. And there's really, right now, there's no relief in sight, especially with the wildfires we had in California, and you have these hurricanes in Florida too over the last summer. We are getting hammered on insurance costs. The cost to fix things is way up from the pre-pandemic. So insurance is out of control. We're not getting any love or relief there at the moment. So what exactly is the Fed's role and what is the future outlook? So we have to go back a little bit to figure out where the Feds are, how we got here, and how they've been wrong in the past. And by the way, if you guys didn't notice, when the Feds talk, they're primarily wrong. So that's the other scary thing. And when we have the clear data to tell them you're wrong, they're not even, when they're historically wrong, and then we have data to tell them they're wrong, they're not even considering this. Does Jerome Powell know what we're talking about? Absolutely. Is it real? Does he understand that the data's changed? Absolutely. Why are they not looking at it? Why are they not changing it? Why are they not updating their policy? Well, we don't work at the Fed. We just don't know. And I'm sure it's because that's how they've done everything for the last years, and they're not changing it anytime soon. So in 2022, they were slow to act because inflation was underreported. Now they might be slow to cut because inflation is overreported. Market expected rate cuts in 2024, but the Fed may wait longer. So the market did cut rates in 2024, right? But now the Fed's saying they're going to slow down the cuts in 2025. That the letter that Barry Habib wrote to Trump, he is asking them to, can you please review this letter? Can you please review the outdated data? Can we at least have a live, real data that we're looking at? Because as I mentioned before, if you actually own rental property and you had a release, you probably, unless you're in some crazy market that's different, we're noticing here in San Diego and other markets that I know people all over the country, they're having to reduce rents. They're having to give incentives incentivize people to move in. So the shelter in place, which makes up 18% of PCE or 46% of CPI, if that is really off, we are basically printing numbers, releasing information out to the general public, which is saying that the inflation is much higher than it really is. So if we know that rents in place are much lower, why are we not using the data today? And that's what we're asking this letter. Trump, you need to get with Jerome Powell. You guys need to update your policies, update how you look at these reports, and get a different model, because the way we're seeing it right here, this is going to, if the rents in place continue at this pace, it's eventually going to catch up, and Powell's going to be late to the game, just like he was in 2022 to raise rate. He is probably a year late. He's going to be potentially 6 months or a year late to really cut the rates and bring those rates down to where they should be. So us in the mortgage industry that basically focus on getting people pre-approved or refinancing or help purchase properties, we are highly concerned because higher rates are keeping buyers from buying places. Higher rates are keeping people from selling their home to go buy a new home. And then higher rates have 6 million plus Americans that cannot even refinance their high rates right now to bring those down to save money. Because at the end of the day, the government's job is to make housing affordable. And with interest rates this high, I understand they needed to come up. We needed to slow things down. But inflation has literally come from 9s down to 2s. And then we're almost there. They have this number of 2% that they want to hit. So what does all this mean in English for you? What it means is that at some point in time, whether it's Trump, whether it's the data, or whether it's the feds, something will break, something's going to give, and that will help rates come down. That will help the 10-year treasury come down. And there's many factors that this administration can do to get rates down, make housing more affordable, and get millions and millions of people into buying homes that can't afford it, and also get the millions and millions of people with the high interest rates ability to refinance. I appreciate you guys watching this video. Hey, share this with somebody, like, comment below, subscribe. And if I can help you out with anything, my contact information is in the description below. And thank you so much. I hope this video helps out. And hey, if you know anybody, send this to them, especially if they work on the Trump administration or anything like that. We need to get this in front of as many people as possible to get the word out there that, hey, we are not looking at the data right, and these interest rates should be down. And why are we waiting so long to get them down? This is killing the real estate market. It's killing the American people, and inflation is really not as bad as it seems according to the data.